All right, this is part 3 of the lab. It's just like part 2 where we're doing unequal masses of hot and cold water, except for part 3, we're gonna flip-flop. So last on part 2, we did 120 milliliters of hot water and 80 milliliters of cold for a total of 200 milliliters. This time we're gonna flip-flop it and we're gonna do a little bit more cold water than hot. So I'm gonna start off first by measuring out only 80 milliliters of our hot water. We're gonna get a temperature on that. Record it in table 3. Okay. All right, add that to my cup. Go ahead and pop my thermometer in there. We'll let that stabilize. Again, we can't just assume the same temperature as the last 2 sessions because this water has been sitting. I actually just refilled both my cups. So my hot water might be a little bit hotter than it was in part 2. My cold water might be a little warmer as well as it was in part 2. So for this one, we're going to do 120 milliliters of cold water. There's 100 there. And 20 on the money. Okay, so it looks like our hot water has stabilized at about 56.1 degrees Celsius. So let's go ahead and move our thermometer over to our cold water and give that a second to stabilize. And again, just like the last couple, we're gonna go ahead, add the hot to the cold. Again, remember we have more cold water this time. You guys should have made a prediction on this on the second or third slide of the lab where you did your pre-questions. Okay, so this is still coming down just a little bit. So we'll let it sit a second longer. But you guys will be able to go back and compare your results to what you guys actually guessed or predicted on the earlier parts. So we're starting to slow down. We can go ahead and assume about 10.6 degrees Celsius. Let's go ahead and add our hot water. Mix it in and give that a second to stabilize. Again, remember this is part 3, unequal masses of hot and cold water, where we did 120 milliliters of cold and about 80 milliliters of hot. So it looks like we're about stabilized at 28 degrees Celsius. So make sure you have all of that recorded in your data table.